guys, so today I am doing the mum tag. So if you are new to my channel, I am a first time mum to a toddler. Levi is going to be 2 at the end of next month. So I thought this would be a really fun tag, and I tag any mum watching this video right now. I will link the questions down below, so if you want to go ahead and do the video as well, and if you do, please mention me in the video or tag me in some way so I can watch it as well. I thought it would be really fun to see what other mums have like to answer for these questions. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just answering the questions off my phone. So the first question is, how old were you when you had your first child? So Levi is my only child at the moment, so he is my first child, and I had him. So he was born in February and my birthday's in June. So I think I was 24 turning 25. So I was just shy a few months of being 25 when I had him. Question number 2 is, what was the hardest thing about being pregnant for 9 months? I honestly had a really good pregnancy. So for me, I think the hardest thing was that I was pregnant like the very end of my pregnancy, the 3rd trimester, like the 8th and 9th month was in the peak of summer in Australia. And if you live in Australia, you know how the summer here is just a very dry heat. On top of that, being pregnant, it was just, that was probably the worst part, like being that heavily pregnant in the heat of summer in Australia. That was probably the worst part for me. Question number 3. Can you think of any good things you enjoyed during those 9 months? Like I said, I had the best pregnancy. I enjoyed every part of it. The thing that I loved the most was probably feeling him move. I just loved that every day. Like once he would start moving more often, I think I only started feeling movements between 16 and 17 weeks. I remember I was at work. So I was a medical receptionist and I was on the phone and I just felt this tiny little bubble, and that was it. And it didn't happen again for another couple of days, because when you first start feeling movement, it's very sparse here and there. I was like 20 weeks, I could feel him quite often, and I would just sit on the couch, and every time he'd move, I'd like tickle my belly, and then he'd move back, and it was just, I just loved. That was probably my favorite part of being pregnant, other than you get to eat whatever you want. That was also great. Question number 4. In your opinion, were all the things you heard about childbirth accurate or way off? It's pretty accurate. Like I remember speaking to my mum, because I was so scared about labor and birth and stuff. I was just really scared. You hear all these horror stories, and I used to watch One Born Every Minute. I don't know why I did that. I mean, they don't show you everything, but you get to see the process and the woman in pain and all of that. But one thing I always saw was the minute, no matter how much in pain they were, the minute the baby was born, it was like done. The mother had forgotten about everything, and so I remember asking my mum, like, what does it feel like? Does it feel like burning? Does it feel like a cramp? And she said it's like a cramp, just 100 times worse. And she said, you'll know when you're having a contraction, and you will never forget that pain. And that is so true. When I even, like, if I try and watch One Born Every Minute now, I just instinctively tighten up my legs, and I'm just like, oh, no. Question number 5. Would you have handled childbirth differently if you could redo it? I had a pretty peaceful birth experience. I will link my birth story in the description bar. Just, that's a whole other story on its own if you wanted to watch that. But I had a really good birth experience, so I wouldn't change anything. And I did have epidural as my pain relief, but I go more in depth in the birth video. But I had to have it very early on, because I wasn't, like, my waters had broken and it had been 24 hours and I wasn't progressing as fast as I needed to. Because if your waters had broken and you're not naturally progressing through labor, like, you have a higher risk of developing an infection because the water is broken. So they did have to give me something to get my labor going. So that was the reason why I had epidural quite early on. if I could change any one thing, that would probably be it, only because I really became very confined to the bed after that, and they had a catheter and everything like that, so that I didn't like as much. But honestly, if I'm going to redo it again, I wouldn't change anything about it. Question number 6, what would be your advice for someone who is about to have a baby? Get as much sleep as you can. And I know everyone said the same thing to me, and I remember lots of people that have had kids said that to me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. Everyone says the same thing. And I remember saying to my parents and my husband, I said, everyone says that to me, but I just feel like I miss my baby so much that I'd be waiting for him to wake up in the middle of the night. That wasn't the case. I remember when he used to wake up, I'd go, oh my God, are you serious again? Question number 7, what has been the hardest thing about being a mum? Being a mum truly is the hardest thing to do in the world. It's a full-time job. You don't get paid for it. You don't get breaks. You don't have a time in, time out responsibility. I think the hardest thing for me is I tend to feel a lot of guilt, like mum guilt, if something, like, how can I put this, like, if I'm not spending focused one-on-one time with him enough, even though I know that I do my best. Like, yes, I go on my phone, at times when he's sitting on his iPad next to me, and in those moments for that little bit, I'm like, is that wrong, what I'm doing, like that type of thing. Like, I'm constantly second guessing, am I doing the right thing? Is this good for him? What's good for him? For me personally, that's what's been the hardest. Question number 8, what has been the most rewarding thing about being a mum? Honestly, everything. Everyone says this, and it's so true. Being a mum is the hardest job, but the most rewarding thing you will ever do in your life, and I cannot agree more with that statement. It is so true. I feel like my life is so fulfilled now having Levi in it. I just feel like I'm complete. Like, this is what life is meant to be. That's how I feel. Question number 9. What was the most surprising thing you discovered about being a mum? Well, for me, I always assumed that I would be super patient and my husband would be probably not as patient. And it is actually the other way around, which is a little bit irritating for me, because I just thought that I would be so easygoing, because that's the type of person I am in anything. But when it comes to Levi, I actually tend to have a lot less patience with him, and that frustrates me a lot, because I try and think about it in his shoes, like, he's a child, he must be feeling frustrated, so he's probably needing me to be a little bit more understanding of him. And in certain times I'm not, and I'm quite I do lose my patience a lot with him, and my husband is completely the opposite. He's super patient with him. I don't know whether that's because I'm around Levi more that I would have less patience with him, if that makes sense, but I'm really glad actually in a way that Levi's got a really good balance between myself and my husband, because like even discipline wise it's a really good balance. My husband is better at disciplining him and Levi's better at listening to him than he is with me. So I think we've got a really good balance in that sense with parenting him. Question number 10. What is the best memory you have involving your child? Every day I make memories with Levi, even if it's something as simple as going to the park and we see like today, the last couple of times we've been there, I think I have